Alrighty, welcome everyone to day 4 of Advent Decode. Yesterday's problem wasn't all that too bad. Here's hoping today's is also the same. Here's hoping we stay in that intermediate range category of skill level, but we'll find out here in just a few more seconds. I've been enjoying these puzzles so far. I think they have been some pretty good introductory level questions to kind of get yourself feeling in the programming spirit, I guess, for the Advent calendar. But at any rate, 5 seconds here so we can see the problem and we can get today's Advent Decode underway. And today we have, you arrive at the airport only to realize you grabbed your North Pole credentials instead of your passport. While these documents are extremely similar, North Pole credentials issued by a country and therefore aren't actually valid destination for travel in most of the world. It seems like you're not the only one having problems, though. A very long line is formed for the automatic passport scanners. The delay could upset your travel itinerary. Due to some questionable network security, you realize that you might be able to solve both these problems at the same time. Fantastic. The automatic passport scanners are slow because they're having trouble detecting which passports have all the required fields. And the expected fields are as follows: birth year, okay. Passport data is validated in batch files. Your puzzle inputs. Each passport is represented as a sequence of key value pairs separated by space or new lines. Passports are separated by blank lines. There's the batch file. Okay. The first passport is valid. All 8 fields are present. The second passport is invalid. The missing heights. Third passport is interesting. The only missing field is CID. So it looks like data from the North Pole credential is not a passport at all. So, what? The third passport is interesting. The only missing field is CID, country ID. So it looks like data from North Pole, not a passport at all. Surely nobody would mind if you made the system temporarily ignore missing CID fields. Treat this passport as valid. Okay. CID, birth year, missing CID is fine, but missing other field is not. Okay. According to the above rules, your improved system will report 2 valid passports. Okay. We're just counting the number. Okay, so puzzle inputs. So this will be interesting for mine. My parser doesn't do this too well, I don't think. So let's dump this into day 4. So we want to... Everyone's separated by that. So I guess we want to read until we hit... Okay. So we want to first get and separate these into passports. Now... Again, mine reads in my lines, but I guess this one should just read this line as blank. So I can just read until I get a blank string. Okay. So while we're doing this, while we're reading each line, let's parse each line into the key value pairs. So let's do... So let's go through each line and let's do a for string s in inputs. Let's just take s and first check if s is empty. If s is not, or if it is empty, we'll do something else. But if it's not empty, we're going to treat this as a passport line. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to head and do s, and we're going to split on spaces. This will give us a nice string array here. So this is going to be line parts, I'm going to call it. And we're going to need a hash map up here because we're going to have this hash map store our basically key value pairs. So string, and it's going to be equal to new hash map. I totally forgot to name this variable. Good job, me. So this is going to be our key values. Good enough name. Okay, so there's our key values. So now we have our line parts. So this is going to be a singular line. Now that we have a singular line, we've just split it up into these individual parts. We need to then split these individual parts up into the key and value of each. Whoops, not that. So we're going to have to go do a for loop of each part in line parts. And we're going to have to go ahead and split this up into key value. And it's going to be part split on that. And then we can just go ahead and dump this into key values. Key values. Go ahead and put key value 0, key value 1. Okay, so that should go through and split everything up. Put this into here, and we should be golden. So now what we need to do is when we hit a blank line, we need to check if the things put into our key value system are valid and are basically what it's asking for in the passport. So going back to here, we need all of these. So we need the birth year, issue year. Okay. So what we can just do is we can simply just do a large if statement, I guess. We can just do key values contains all of these keys. Actually, let's do this. Let's do string s. This is a little more work, but needed keys. But this is going to let us just not have a big long for loop. You can do this a bunch of different ways. You can have a one big long if statement with a bunch of ands on it. You could have multiple separate if statements. This is just a different way of just stuffing each key in here. So birth year, issue year, expiration year, height, hair color, eye color, passport ID. So these are all the necessary keys that are needed to be a valid ID. So we can go ahead and just do a for loop for each string key and needed keys. And then we can go ahead and just check that the key values contain this key. And what we need to do is we need to have a valid Boolean here, which will be true by default. If the key values does not contain it, what we will go ahead and do is do valid is false and then break out of this so we don't keep checking these. And then at the end here, key values clear. What? Okay, it's key one. Okay, so then we can just go ahead and check here is, what is this complaining about? Key values contains key. How is that always true? I don't understand that. Okay, interesting. Whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a check here. If this is valid, we need to then increment a number of valid passports. If valid, go ahead and increment valid passports. We're good there. And then we should be good here. Yes, get rid of that. I still don't understand why this is complaining. I'm also thinking fast here, so this might be just something I'm not getting here. The system out, print line, I can't type either. How many valid passports we have, and just output valid passports, sorry. There you go, so now, where is, oh, it's complaining because that isn't a valid line. Okay. Good. So if we were to run this now, let it build. This is inside our main for loop, which is the wrong place for that. Okay, and then okay, what do we can get from here? We just need to get 0. Why is this? So key values. Key values need to be put out here. My bad. That's what I was complaining. It was in the wrong scope. Okay. Now run this. We get 237 passports. Sweet. There we go. Okay. After we figure that out, we're good. All right. The line's moving much more quickly now, but you overhear the airports here talking about how passports with valid data are getting through. Better add some data validation quick. You continue to ignore the CID field, but each other field has strict rules about what values are valid for automatic validation. Maybe we shouldn't have done what I just did. Okay, so we're gonna have to break this up now. So I did this the incorrect way, what we're gonna have to do. So we're gonna this quickly before I do this, we're gonna need to split this up and change this to a bunch of if statements. So if, sorry, I shouldn't remove that. So we need to do if key values contains the key birth year, or BYR. And then we also need to check that the birth year is at least 1920 and is at most 2002. So now we just need to add a bunch of validation to this. This is going to be int year is going to be key values get BYR. Okay. We need to parse this out. Integer parse int golden there. So now we can just simply do a check if the year is greater than or equal to 1920 and the year is less than or equal to 2002. Okay. But we only want not valid, so we need to do if it is less than 1922 or it is greater than 2002. We just simply just say valid is false, and we're good there. Next one after birth year is IR is issue year 2010, most 2020. So 2010 and is at most 2020. Okay. And then expiration year, at least 2020. So if it's less than 2020 or if it is above 2030, we're good there. This is the expiration year. Okay. The height is up next, and it is still gonna be an integer. It's a number followed by either centimeters or inches. Okay. So for this, we need to parse out whether or not it's centimeters or inches. So we're going to have to do, the quickest way we can do this is to check on, so we'll have to first get the string height, which is this. So we can just do a quick check. But we need to know if it's centimeters or inches. So we can just do height, and we can just check that the ends, if it ends with inches, otherwise if it ends with centimeters, otherwise it is not valid. If we end with inches, what we can just do is we can just take the height. We can then replace the ending inches with nothing and then parse out the integer we get from that. This is then the height inches. And for this, inches must be at least 59, most 76. So at least, so if it's less than 59 or greater than 76. And we can actually just, again, make this invalid. Otherwise, we can do the same thing, but instead of inches, we're replacing centimeters. This is height centimeters. And the lower bound is going to be 150. Upper bound is going to be 193. This is feeling a lot really monotonous to me, so it feels like this isn't the best solution, but maybe this is kind of sometimes what you get locked into when you do these is you just get locked into whatever solution you start with and kind of continue on from there. So I mean, if you're doing this not fast, you're doing this kind of slower, or you want to do this, then it's not a huge deal. You can pivot really whenever. But if you were trying to do this a little bit fast like me, I'm not trying for a leaderboard, but I want to try and get up there. You kind of have to stick with what you go and just continue on. So anyway, so hair color is a pound sign followed by, this is just a hex parser. I have done hex parsers in the past where you can just regex this. So we can just do if key value, gets HCL and just matches. So this is gonna be a simple regex expression. It's going to be that, and then it's 6 of A to F. Not what's it called? Not case sensitive, so it's all gonna be lowercase. So there's a quick regex for that. If it doesn't match, then again, not valid. Whoops. So there's a hair color, and then there's ECL. All these need to actually have an else on them, because if it doesn't have this, then it is invalid. I just realized that. These technically, with what I'm doing, need to all have an else, to where if they don't contain these, it is an invalid passport. Okay, so now the eye color, there. Exactly one of these. String color is going to be this. So I guess we get to throw this through a bunch of equal statements. So if it does not equal any of these, again, probably not the most efficient solution here, but it's the one I've started with and I'm gonna kind of have to roll with. And then there's two more. And other. Okay. So it does not equal any of those. It is not valid. And then last but not least is the passport ID. 9-digit number, including leading zeros. So we can actually just take this one because it's going to be another regex expression we can just check against. It is passport ID, and it is going to be nothing there, and it is going to be 0 to 9, and it is a 9-digit number. There we go. Okay. Ignored, missing, or not. Okay. Count all passports where all required fields are both present and valid. Good. So now roll this through. Let's see what we get here out of curiosity. 172. Is this right? It happened to be right. I'm kind of happy that was right because I was not about to go through and debug to see which one of those I messed up or didn't do right. But at any rate, there we go. So again, I guess the takeaway from today is if you are doing this more competitively or you are trying to get as high of a score as you can, what you got to know is that when you pick away, you got to roll with it, you got to do it. Now, this is definitely not the most elegant way. I can almost guarantee you that. It's probably much more elegant ways you could have done this, but I'm trying to make this informative for you guys, but also trying to do my best, and well, my best-ish, because again, I'm just teaching you guys here, so it's a little, I'm going to be obviously going a little slower, but I'm still trying to do this fast for me, if that makes sense. But anyways, those two problems, let's go through again. Let me try to explain these and try and say what we did. So on our code, the first part is taking in all of these passports. So our first thing to do is to read these all in as if there were no of these blank lines. Just read everything in and dump everything into a hash map where the key is ECL, PID, BYR, whatever, and then the value is whatever is coming after it. So we have to take a line, split on the spaces, that way we get the individual kind of key value pairs, and then split on the semicolon here to get the key and value separately and then put into our hash map. Once we have that all be parsed and loaded in, now we need to deal with these blank lines, because these blank lines mean, okay, we've read a passport in, now validate what is in our hash map, and then once we validate it, clear it out so that way we can read the next line and start dumping things back into our hash map. So when we go to validate, all we're doing is we're going through and checking to see if every single key is in the hash map, and if it's not, or one of them are missing, we just simply say it's invalid and we don't increment our value. But if they all are there, we increment our value and continue on, and then output the final results. For part 2 though, there are some now validation, not only on the keys, but there's some validation on the values of those keys. So what we changed over to was just adding a bunch of if statements to check that the key is there. If the key is there, we then have to run some validations, like the height here, taking the ending, checking if the ending is in inches or centimeters, removing that last bit, parsing out the front bits, which is the number, and then validating its number is within the criteria. That's very much true for all of the first ones, which are dates, simply just taking the value, converting to a number, and making sure it falls within the minimum and maximum bounds. The only ones that are kind of different are the hair color, which is a simple regex expression. If you don't know regex, it's a really powerful tool to know. I'll break this one down though. The regex expression here is, of course, first we're just checking for a straight up ampersand sign, or an ampersand, sorry, a hash or a pound sign. If it is at the first character, then we can continue on. If it's not there at the first character, it is automatically rejected, not valid. And then beyond there, we get to the next bit. So these square brackets mean it is a set. I don't know if that's a correct term, but it is a set of possible matches. So in this case, this set contains the letters A through F and the numbers 0 through 9. So if the next character in our string is in that set, if the character is A through F, or is 0 through 9, if it's any of those characters, we return true, we keep going. And what this curly brace 6 means is that this pattern before it repeats 6 times. So we have a pound sign and then followed by 6 of this pattern, which is A through F, 0 through 9. So very quick regex explanation. Again, if you don't know regex, a powerful tool, definitely look that up. It's very nice, but it's also a little confusing sometimes, but in these cases it makes life a lot easier. And then we take the short row and we just simply do a bunch of checks here for the eye color, which is checking against a bunch of different possibilities. And then we also have one more expression here for the passport ID. So anyways, hopefully this was a explanation. I would say this one was actually a little bit easier than yesterday. It's longer, but the code you're actually writing is definitely, I would say, at an easier level than the past days was. It's the only tricky bit is to know how to parse this file, and then to just get everything down, figure out how to do all the validation checks. But the validation checks are something that you usually learn pretty early on in programming. So definitely the hardest part about this is the loading of this in. But if you can get this loaded in, this question isn't all that bad. So at any rate, I probably rambled on for long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys all tomorrow for day 5. Peace out.